such a good sign that the week 2 of COP26, Wanjira Mathai is smiling, right? Are you putting on a front or is this real? Tell me.
I am smiling. I'm optimistic, Femi. I'm optimistic. We have to be, because the alternative is unacceptable.
We have 2 chunks of COP. We have week 1, we have week 2. Sum up week 1.
Week 1, nature is back. That's one of my headlines. We saw for the first time in a very long time some serious commitments on nature. 100 leaders saying we shall halt deforestation by 2030. And not only that, I thought what was fantastic about this commitment in particular is that it was private sector, donors, and the public sector, resources backing this. An acknowledgement, Femi, that nature is a huge part of the climate solution. That was a really important one. There was also the methane pledge to cut down. Methane is a big greenhouse gas that we hadn't done enough about. It is about the private sector and companies cutting greenhouse gases, but methane was a big part of the climate problem. That too saw a serious commitment. So some good news.
If you're watching this, or maybe not watching this, but you're a citizen of the world impacted by the climate crisis, how is what's happening at COP26, how is it relevant?
Well, listen, there is some good news and there is some not so good news. You've heard youth activists out there saying it is an exclusionary COP. That is concerning. We haven't seen as many voices, especially in the Leaders Summit, in those rooms. I think there were just 4 voices of civil society. That's problematic.
Yeah.
The issue today is Adaptation Day. Issue of loss and damage and adaptation front and center. This is an issue that is pretty much neglected. It is an orphaned issue with respect to climate change. We are seeing movement on ambition, clarity on the direction of travel, but on adaptation and the issues that matter to climate vulnerable countries, there is every reason to be concerned.
All right, Wanjira, don't hate me for this. I'm going to strip away some of your filter, okay? Because as we were getting ready for COP26, you were furious. Activists were furious that political leaders were coming to COP and they were not being serious about the commitments that they have to make. That was before COP. Now we're in it.
We are not any less furious because we have to remain, yes, hopeful, because the alternative is unacceptable, but we have to be realistic. It is unacceptable that we have not yet acknowledged fully the importance and the centrality of loss and damage, the importance and the centrality of adaptation. There are people, as we sit here, who are dying because of the extreme impacts. They are in dire straits. For them, the discussions are just not enough. We need to see real climate finance. We're 10 years late on delivering on climate finance, and we've pushed that 3 years forward. That's problematic when you're drowning. It is problematic when you're drowning.
One more thought, and this is for our colleagues at Nature for Climate. Next year, COP is going to be in Egypt.
Yes.
So this COP has been called pale, elite, Global North centric. I remember someone quite close to me talking about, this is all Global North conversation. Okay,
Right.
So when COP goes to the Global South, when it's on the African continent, what difference do you think that could make?
Well, I can only guarantee that the issues that matter to climate vulnerable countries will find a lot more solidarity. Listen, there is some solidarity. It is not all pale. I think there is an important solidarity. There's a forward movement, but it's not enough. And see, the thing is, the urgency. It's not, somebody gave me this analogy. It's wonderful. A child is in a pool drowning. There is no time for discussions. There is no time for a business case. This is what climate vulnerable countries are hearing. Well, for the finance to actually get where we need it to get, we need a business case. No, when life and death matters are on the table, we didn't do that with COVID. We mobilized trillions to address the COVID crisis. I didn't see a business case, did you?
Well, I see what you're saying. But when it came to lockdown or not lockdown, there were several business cases. But I hear you.
Yeah.
When the money needed to be mobilized,
Trillions.
all of the reasons why you couldn't mobilize them for the climate crisis were swept away for COVID.
Because
But
life, human life, is paramount.
But maybe it's because there are some regions where they're not seeing in their face the same way they were seeing COVID. And maybe by the time they see that, that's going to be too late.
It is going to be too late.
Yeah.
And that's why for this adaptation, Loss and Damage Day, the words are solidarity. Solidarity is crucial. It is, I think, climate vulnerable countries, the poorest countries in the world, certainly on the African continent, have shown tremendous solidarity with the mitigation agenda. The country of Rwanda was the very first country to put its NDC down. This is how we are going to mitigate. African countries are not responsible for the majority of their emissions, but they are mitigating. They are building in low emission pathways for the future. Where is the solidarity on adaptation and loss and damage? That's the question.